Okay, the tour, of course, starts on Friday. That's tomorrow morning with the ODI series. I'm joined by a very special guest from Australia, Nick Hockley, this interim CEO of Cricket Australia, joins me. Appreciate your joining us, Mr. Hockley. While there is excitement, there's also an element of apprehension because of COVID, the first major series being played in COVID times. Does that worry you, especially as some parts of Australia, like South Australia, have seen a spike in COVID cases in recent weeks? How safe are the players at the moment?
I think we've been relatively extremely fortunate here in Australia, and certainly Melbourne experienced a second wave, but we're really thrilled that they've had now 28 days consecutively of no community transmission. You're right, in South Australia there was a small cluster. The advice we're getting from health officials is that that is contained and is close contacts of a known outbreak, and we were very relieved. I have to say we were extremely relieved that their lockdown finished early on Saturday evening. So we've got a great deal of confidence that the plans in place for the series, our COVID safe plans, clearly safety is the number one priority. But increasingly we're extremely confident now that the Adelaide day-night test, which is after all the first ever day-night test between Australia and India, that will go ahead as scheduled.
You know, that's great news because, of course, Virat Kohli, the Indian captain and the big star, is coming back after that first test in Adelaide to be with his wife for the birth of their first child. How is that being seen in Australia? Because I know Virat himself has become a larger-than-life hero to Australian crowds. Will the test series have the same excitement without Virat?
Oh, I think the Australian crowds absolutely love Virat. But as we've said before, we're very respectful that Virat wants to be there for the birth of his first child, and absolutely respect those wishes. But we're enormously appreciative and very excited that he'll be here for all of the 3 ODIs, the 3 T20s, and that day-night test. So, but absolutely respect that he would want to be there for the birth of his first child.
You know, one of the transformations, Mr. Hockley, is that because of COVID, the matches, most of them are going to be played behind closed doors, no crowds. But is there any plan at all that by the time the big Melbourne Boxing Day test comes up next month, that there will be crowds with social distancing? Is that a possibility now?
That's a lovely...
Absolutely. So already we're planning to, and the Victorian government has said that we're planning to have 25,000 people at the Boxing Day test. And as I said previously, we've now had 28 days of 0 cases in Melbourne. And so we're working with the government to see if we can increase that number from 25,000. And that will be a huge event for, it's a huge event in a normal year, but it'll be a huge event for the people of Melbourne, who, as I've said, have experienced a second wave.
You know, many believe, in a way, Mr. Hockley, that the Indian team today is a bit like the West Indies of the 80s was to Australia. This is the big series. It was Australia-West Indies in the 80s. Now it's India versus Australia. And the West Indies and the series this time taking place just 2 years after the last Indian team toured Australia. Would you agree? The Indian team now is the biggest draw in Australia, and therefore important for you from the revenue and spectators' interest point of view. We are the new superpower of world cricket.
I think you're right in the level of interest is right up there. I think you know, we've seen when India have played here in World Cups or the recent series, you know, we've seen that the crowds are, you know, we've seen seas of blue supporters. So now absolutely it's we've got 2 of the best teams in the world. I think you know, whether on the batting and bowling side, there's some really fascinating individual matchups, and you know, I think the beauty of this series coming up is just going to be extremely competitive, and it's you know, I think the cricket, we're just all looking forward to some extremely competitive cricket.
Well, I'm going to set my alarm clock 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, Mr. Hockley, the series to be shown across the Sony Sports Network. Looking forward to that. You can watch the series, of course, on television. It starts tomorrow with the one-day internationals, then the T20s, and then the tests. Thanks very much, Mr. Hockley, for joining us here on the news today.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.